The sailing beta just launched, and with it, we're getting a glimpse into all the new items coming into the game with the update. Today, we're going to walk through the sailing blog post and discuss what items will be in demand both before and after the update launches. If you don't know me yet, my name is Scapenomics, and I'm 100% focused on the OSRS economy at all times, and that's why I'm so pumped to get into this today. Before we hop into it, just a reminder that this is still in beta. Things are still subject to change, and at the end of the day, all of my thoughts are pretty much 100% speculation. This is not item investment advice, so if you invest, it is 100% at your own risk. Alright, I've got the blog post pulled up, and the first thing that stood out to me was the sailing supplies screenshot. This is by far the best representation we've had so far of a handful of items that are going to come into the game with sailing. And what stood out immediately with this is all of the different varieties of cannonballs that Jagex is thinking of adding. I logged into my account to take a closer look at this, and it looks like there's bronze cannonballs, iron, all the way up to dragon, which is quite interesting. It looks like Jagex has decided they're going to add different cannonball varieties, so pretty much all the cannonballs that are used in the existing dwarf cannon today will be the equivalent of the steel cannonball. Now, I do want to caveat this a little bit because Mod Kieran said they may change the way that cannonballs come into the game entirely and some of the varieties, but in my opinion, this is likely to stay just because they've gone through a lot of this development already, and I know combat has been a huge feature for sailing to begin with, so I can't imagine they're going to change these cannonball varieties. It was also mentioned, though, that cannonballs would likely be made from using the ammo mold obtained during the Dwarf Cannon quest, and likely with just higher tier ingredients, right? If you want to make a mithril cannonball, you use a mithril bar with a furnace and the ammo mold. But it was also alluded that there'd be additional ways to obtain cannonballs outside of just making them from scratch. So cannonballs as we know them today will become the equivalent of a steel tier. Based on all the types of cannonball varieties, I don't think it's too crazy to say that demand for ore and metal is going to go up because you're going to need to use this as an ingredient in the cannonballs. Yes, Jagex did mention that there's likely going to be another way to obtain cannonballs, and if I had to guess, some of the sailing loot will be ore and metal, but leading up to the update, people are going to stockpile on these ores and metals because they know that these cannonballs are coming. I think another thing worth mentioning here is that these cannonball varieties in general will be an amazing flip once sailing releases, because the demand for each variety is going to be so high, and it's likely going to remain pretty high for a few months just as people come back to the game and try out sailing. By the way, if you're enjoying this analysis, I want to let you know that I write a RuneScape investment newsletter every single month that is available on Patreon. In that newsletter, I point out the best economic opportunities in-game from future updates, bot farms, or just cheap items in general. We'll discuss a few more sailing items on the next newsletter in addition to the ones we discussed today, so if that sounds interesting to you, feel free to check that out in the description below. Another amazing economic opportunity that I think exists is on the plank varieties. Now, this is interesting because Jagex originally stated that only new plank varieties were going to come to the game, and we wouldn't use any previous ones. So seeing the mahogany planks, the teak planks is very interesting right now, and I think investing in the base material is the best way to go for this investment. Similar to the metal and ore, investing in the base material is going to be your best option, and I'll show you why here in a minute. You'll notice that later on in the blog post, there is an item coming to the game called the repair kit. And how the repair kit works is basically the same as how food works in game. So if you use a repair kit on your boat, it's like eating a shark. You'll notice that to make a repair kit, you need planks, nails, and swamp paste to do so. So if planks and nails go up in price, then their base materials will go up as well, as people will be buying the base material to craft the planks and the nails. I'd also keep in mind that the raw materials trade at much higher volumes, so it's way easier to buy and sell ore or logs than it is to buy and sell planks, as there's not as many traded on the market. Another thing that makes investing in the base materials even better is think about the situations where you're buying, let's say, steel bars, mithril bars. Well, those are free-to-play items, so you can use a separate free-to-play account to purchase your investment investments in the long term and then trade them over to your main account to actually cash in on the profit. This not only lets you not use your main's GE slots, you can also use multiple separate free-to-play accounts to buy into an investment quicker, making this a really nice investment opportunity. So after going through the blog post and knowing all this information about new items that are coming to the game and how you can buy them, what is the best way to play this type of update investment? So I want to give you a few tips. First tip that I can give is to digest this information first and end up making your own opinions. Try to debunk some of my arguments, take the counter argument to my argument, and think why an item may go down in price instead, so you can find better investment opportunities for yourself. And once you do, don't tell anyone, because the more people that know, the more they can mess with your flip. The second thing you should not do is to not invest all your cash stack at once. This is a mistake I see a lot of new flippers do. Trust me, you never want to do this. It's way too risky in the long term, and sailing doesn't come out for a few months. I think it's slated to come out in the fall, so your cash stack is going to be locked up for a long time. You'll notice that a lot of the time you can make more money just by flipping every night overnight than you would have if you invested in one single item and waited. Third, you need to diversify as much as possible, so find a bunch of items that you think will go up, and then spread your cash stack across all of those items and wait. Anyway, those are my candid thoughts on how sailing will affect the OSRS economy. My goal is to bring the channel more investment advice earlier so you guys can get in on some good deals. What do you think is going to happen with sailing, and what items are obvious investments that I haven't even thought of yet? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.